Okay, so let's jump straight into match 3 here, and we're playing against one of the well-known meta decks, Raiden Superconduct, based around a lot of reactions between Electro and Cryo. And opening hand here has already a few of the better cards in it, Liben and Strategize, both decent cards to have on turn 1. And we end up getting some fixing and a Treasure Hunter Sealy, both of which are nice options too. So pretty decent opening hand from us. And there's definitely some consideration as to whether we start on Xiangling or Raiden here, since we don't have Liu Su. But against another aggressive deck, it does generally make more sense to start on Raiden Shogun and get that summon out quickly. So we really just want to prioritize Electro Dice, so we're going to reroll the Pyro one. We have Liben anyway, and having rerolled all the dice, we end up with quite a nice set of options, including 3 Electro Dice for Raiden's skill. And we're able then just to play our Treasure Seeking Sealy first, and start off just with Raiden's skill and start getting the stacks on that. Seeing as we already have a pretty decent set of cards for our turn 1, makes sense to develop the slightly slower draw or Treasure Seeking Sealy rather than our Strategize. Opponent's going to start on their Raiden, develop their skill, do something similar, swap to Shenhe. I noticed they're using a quick, a cost-reducing swap changing shifts here, and there's a few reasons they might be using that for that. But probably because after using Shenhe's skill, they want to play something that costs 2 dice, or they want to use 2 dice on something. So that does telegraph their plan a little bit here. Now, we've got a couple of options here. We could just play Liben, or we could fodder a card, tune a card for Xiangling's skill. Now, because they used the changing shifts before, and I know they're planning to play something with costs 2 dice here, I know their deck list, there's a good chance it's going to be send off. So if I use Xiangling's skill, they're probably going to send it off. Now, this seems like a bad thing, but actually, if that happens, and I think for quite a long time here, we actually have quite a good play setting up for the next turn too. Because we can just reuse the skill and actually use the burst on Xiangling next turn if we get decent dice, and we have the fixing in hand to help with that. So actually I decide to keep the fixing in my hand, use Xiangling's skill here, and opponent, it could be something else, but this is by far the most likely option. They do send off the Roba, which leads into the play we're discussing. We can put 2 dice into the Liben this turn by using the Arcane Legends card we have. And then really we just need to, and we will get some extra cards if we need to tune them from our Treasure Seeking Sealy next turn too. We just need to get enough Pyro dice to use Xiangling's skill into Xiangling's burst. And this is quite nice for us too, because their deck is mostly AoE focused. It's very hard for that deck to deal a lot of damage to one target. In fact, to kill Xiangling here, they would need, they're just starting with a normal attack, which suggests maybe their dice aren't amazing. They probably want to use their Shenhe's elemental burst this turn. I'm just calculating, okay, their skill would deal 3, their burst would deal 2. They would need exactly Adeptus Temptation into burst to kill my Xiangling here. And even if they do, it's not the end of the world. It will be pretty bad, but it's with only 3 cards in opponent's hand, and with all of our dice being essential to keep really, since we need 4 to burst on Xiangling and then another 1 to put into the Liben. It's not worth using a food here on our Xiangling. So we do this, opponent would need something very specific to kill our Xiangling. I expect they could also have potentially a quick swap to their Shongyun, but that would slow them down and then they wouldn't be able to use Shenhe's burst. So I consider that too. So overwhelmingly likely that the opponent will just use Shenhe's burst this turn, and if they don't, it's probably a suggestion that they've been really unlucky with their dice. which sometimes happens, but it really sucks if it happens to you. They did use quite a few cards on turn 1, so that does make it less likely for them to have fixing and so on, but it's all just probabilities at the end of the day. So we've got here, our key plan. Ideally we're going to use Zhanglings. First, our backup plan, if Zhangling dies, we're pretty happy just to be swapped to our Nahida forcibly, and then just use Nahida's 5-cost skill. So we've got a pretty good backup option there too, especially seeing as we could use the I haven't lost yet to fuel our Lieben here too. So our hand's looking pretty great, and our situation is looking pretty great. An opponent didn't even burst on Shunhe there, suggesting that they've been pretty unlucky with their dice. And with the opening having gone this way at this point, it's going to be pretty hard for opponent to get back in this game, to be honest. And we just want to therefore make sure our next few plays and the next few turns are efficient, and we should be able to get there okay. Opponent's got a lot of energy on their Raiden Shogun and on their Shunhe, but we should be able to actually deploy some decent pressure next turn and maybe even deny one or both of those bursts. If we end turn here, we won't even be... our Zhangling will still survive till the next turn, which honestly, we'd be happy for our Zhangling just to die here and push us to our Nahida, save us having to swap. But it's not necessarily a bad thing if our Zhangling survives here. In a way, it'd be nice if we could actually have our opponent go first, be forced to kill our Zhangling, but this is still okay. And we get a lot of damage out of our summons at the end of the turn. Opponent, he just used his dice on a bit of a normal attack from Raiden, a Lotus Flower Crisp, which again isn't necessarily what they wanted to spend their dice on that turn. So at this point, our dice are looking pretty solid. We've got the Lieben that we ordered some less useful dice into in order to help improve our dice quality, and we've actually got quite a few cards now out of the Lieben, out of the Treasure Seeking Sealy, so we can tune whatever elements we want really at this point. Swap to Nahida, we can afford to spend a card just to save a die at this point. And with the Zhangling Burst and Nahida's skills available, we have quite a lot of pressure on whichever character he's going to swap to. If he stays on Chongyun, his plays aren't necessarily going to be that strong. We've got some protected foods, defensive foods for our Nahida, and we could just use Nahida's skill twice on the Chongyun maybe. If he swaps on the other characters, we probably just have to kill on them. And yeah, without any defensive foods from opponent, we can just kill his Raiden Shogun here. This will allow him to swap to his Shunhe probably and use his Shunhe burst. But, this being turn 3, the Shunhe burst really isn't going to have enough time at this point to get a lot of value. Which is, is why opponent certainly would have liked to get out on turn 2 if they could. And at this point, opponent with only 7 dice left, probably looking to maybe use Shunhe's burst and then maybe a skill from Chongyun, but with only 1 card in hand, it's very hard to see any route for the opponent to win from here. Especially, our hand's looking kind of stacked at this point with 2 I haven't lost yet, some defensive food, even the Nahida talent card, although it's really too slow for this matchup. It's mostly, or entirely, designed for matchups like versus control decks like Double Geo Zhongli and Bin Barbara Ito Noel decks, in which matchups it's really good. But as it is, okay, our Nahida's on 6 health now. It's worth thinking about some breakpoints. Obviously, I want to kill the Shunhe here, but if I do, he swapped to his Chongyun. His Chongyun skill does 3, plus 1 from the Icy Quill, plus 1 from the Shunhe burst that's available. So it's dealing 5, so our Nahida isn't in easy kill range. Opponent would need Cryo Resonance in hand and some excellent dice. And even then, we have these, we could just like swap to Raiden, double I haven't lost yet, something like that. As it is, opponent maybe just values their turn priority over attacking Nahida, because last round is going to be the last round if it doesn't end here. And yeah, basically this game was decided by the very strong plays and plans we were able to make on turn 1 and 2, and opponent stumbling a little bit on turn 2. So opponent ends their round here. They're going to take quite a lot of damage at the end of the turn from our summons, and we can make some plays here just to reduce their damage, weaken their plays a little bit. We can sacrifice the Xiangling here, since Xiangling is likely just to die to Superconduct off field anyway, and this denies a Superconduct reaction from them. We can heal up on Nahida, bring her to 8, so she'll be at 6 after she takes 2 from the summon, and therefore we're still outside the 5 HP breakpoint from their Chongyun. And therefore, even with the opponent acting first, again, if they had like Cryo Resonance, they could still kill Nahida here. But I mean, we still have our Raiden Shogun first available for Insane Overkill if we need it too. So, with everything that happened this game, ends up being an extremely decisive victory in the end. But you know, there were a few plays that factored into that from earlier in the game. At this point, I'll just let it play out. There's not much more I can do. Fair enough on them. And in the end, we take down the match. That was a showcase of our Rainbow Nahida deck against the meta Raiden Superconduct.